Dun 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 dun. Tiny. Brittiny Lartitegui nationality.
Close.
Lartitegui.
Lartitegui.
I got it. How are you, dude?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for sitting down with me today.
Absolutely. I've been waiting to do this for a while now.
Well, you're a pro. You've been up here a few times already.
A few.
Yeah, with Would You Date You?
Yep.
Which is a really cool take on dating in 2022.
I wouldn't necessarily call it millennial dating, but it's definitely in that era of new age dating.
I found out last night that I'm a millennial. I didn't know I was a millennial. So I had this guy on who's running for U.S. Senate, and he's 37. And he said that he is a millennial and that the generation below us is Gen Z. I thought the kids below us were the millennials.
From my understanding, a millennial or even like an elder millennial, as a comedian that I like, Eliza Seschlinger, says.
She's hilarious.
She's an elder millennial, which is, you know, she's in her early 30s. I think she's like 33 now or something like that. But she considers herself to be the start, per se, of the millennial trend, which I guess would include us as well.
Okay, let's see. I looked up a millennial here. Millennial, also known as Generation Y or Gen Y, are the demographic cohort following Generation X. Okay, we know that, but when? Born in the mid-1990s to early 2000s. No, see? Oh, wait. Let me read this correctly. Wikipedia. Let's get some real answers here.
Wikipedia.
I just got this little iPad rocking over here, so I figured I'd give it a try, but it's like fucking 3 years old, so it's obsolete and doesn't work anymore. That's fucking Apple for you. Okay.
My tablet's done for.
Really? What kind of tablet do you have?
It was a Amazon Kindle Fire, and it just doesn't even charge anymore.
Do you know, I think they build that shit in? Oh, let's Boolah.
Ooh, let's do that.
Boolah. Thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Boolah.
Boolah.
I think they build into the technology for it to go to shit after 2 or 3 years. And if they don't build it in, they send out a fucking update. And they're like, dude, you can update. The word update just sounds awesome. Like, oh, update?
Well, even like my Chromebook, when I finally got like a new charger for it and everything, I plug it in, turn it on, it goes through the update. Literally after the update, it says there are no more updates for that style of Chromebook ever.
That's
so like
it.
I pretty
You're
much
maxed
need
out.
a new one.
Right.
Like there will be no more for that.
Well, the problem is that you think update is going to be good and amazing, but as soon as you update it, it starts running like shit because they say, oh, this update's not supported on your device. So your device, which was $1,000 fucking dollars, is now useless.
Obsolete.
Okay, so millennials, also known as Generation Y, researchers and popular media use the early 1980s as starting birth years and the mid-1990s to early 2000s as ending birth years. So fuck.
Yeah.
I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
I've never felt more ashamed.
I didn't want to admit that I was ever a millennial until I watched her comedy skit, and she told me when she was born and like that pretty much the same years, and I was like, God damn it.
It's like this generation, maybe it's Gen Y or Gen X, Gen Y, Gen X.
We would be
Gen
Y.
Z. Gen Z. That's what it is, following X. So Gen Z, the kids younger than us, they terrify me, man.
It's like my sister.
Is she like a
She's
cancel
like the
mob?
beginning of that Gen X, but I feel like she also doesn't really fit in. She's got an old soul, so she fits in with more like our age group. I feel like
you don't even want to say the word.
the millennials. But my youngest sister, from what I know, because I mean, you know, they don't. I'm not super close with my family at the current time that we're in, but from my understanding, she is very much Gen X. My sister is still close with my family, so I find out little bits and pieces from her, and she's
Woke.
as the kids say.
Yeah, woke. You know, this is a very strange time. I believe in equal rights for all humans. Let people be who they want to be. But this sentiment of like cancel mob, attack people for having different beliefs than you. Like that, it literally goes against what y'all are saying. Why are you attacking me? Because my beliefs are a little bit different than yours.
Everyone wants freedom of speech, but then you don't want to let anybody speak.
What Tom McDonald, one of my favorite rappers right now, says in a line in one of his songs, there's a difference between hate speech and speech that you hate.
Absolutely.
Right? And everybody
Absolutely.
screams hate speech. Now, I've heard it said that what needs to be protected when you're talking about protecting free speech is not the stuff you like, because why would you need to protect that? And you're not going to, it's fine. You can say what people like.
Or things that are in your favor.
Correct. The things that need to be protected are the things you don't like and the things you don't agree with. You can't just say, I don't agree with that, so we're going to take it off of Twitter, we're going to take it off Facebook and YouTube, you know. But Flat Earth is like booming on YouTube, you know. And what is that? You know, do you think that the Earth is flat?
I don't think it's flat, but
Oh, God. Did you fall down one of those rabbit holes?
no, absolutely not.
Okay.
I just think it's hard to conceptualize that we live in a sphere where we don't fall off of due to gravity, which is proven by science. But for me in my brain, it still just doesn't make sense to me. So no, I don't believe the Earth is flat, but it's still hard for me to conceptualize that we live in on a sphere that we can stand on, and someone else on the opposite side
Isn't falling
is
into
upside
space?
down from us.
Yeah.
But they're right side up and they're not falling into space.
It is very strange when you think about it like that. Like if you were to dig straight down and come out the other side, you would be right side up. But at no point would you feel like you flipped right side up.
It would definitely be like Inception. You would just like come out the other side and just be like in this new life and in this new place.
Like
and
Super
just,
Mario, like when you go in the little pipes and you
then
come out
just
the other
pop
one.
out like over here in a new dimension.
When you start to think about this type of stuff, it really fucking boggles your mind all up. When I was a kid and I would think about outer space, it actually was almost like thinking about death for me. It was like this fear of the unknown that made me feel so uncomfortable and made me feel so tiny. And it's like, so I can understand how people can watch a YouTube video with like a very descriptive voiceover and these images and be like, yeah, I'd say it's flat, you know? But then in that same sentiment, people say that space is fake,
Right.
you know? But who knows? We've been lied to about everything else.
Like, what if it's just a massive projector that the government just projects onto the night sky every night and those are our stars?
Have you heard of simulation theory?
I believe that my life is a simulation.
Yeah.
Like I said it yesterday at work. I think God or a higher power or the player per se is controlling our lives, which they are through, you know, the government and the media and like all these little things that come from different angles that we experience throughout life. But I feel like some of it just doesn't seem real enough to me to feel that this is my life. Like someone is controlling. I feel like a puppet sometimes.
It's like the synchronicities that you see, the certain things. Like sometimes Danielle and I will be talking and we'll say a word. And at the exact same time that we say a word, the radio says the same word. Or we say something and then it's said on TV or something. It's very strange. Like obviously the phones listen to us, and if you say something, you then see what you're talking about. That's different. But when like there's these synchronicities that happen, you're like, what the fuck is this? Is this a fucking video game?
Yeah. It's, I don't know.
Well, I watched this documentary the other day about like non-player characters. So there's a new movie called Free Guy. I haven't seen it yet. You saw it?
It's good. I didn't see like the last 10 minutes of it, but it was pretty good.
Yeah. It's
Mike
like
enjoyed it much more than I did.
Yeah, I can understand that.
The whole video game thing.
Right. It's like, but it's the theory that he realizes that he's a non-player character or he's a player character and everybody else are non-player characters. This documentary I saw, it was like talking about there's like 8 billion people on the planet and there's no actual possible way that everybody can be a player character. And I feel like I've met people like this.
Like implants.
It's just like a person to take up space. There's nothing really happening there. And maybe the only people who like incarnate are the ones that you engage with. And everybody else, like if you're walking around New York City and there's 100,000 people walking down the sidewalk, like it's just weird that all of those people have like such
lives.
important lives, you know?
Well, and I feel like we think about those things when even we're driving down the street and someone speeds by and you're like, where could you possibly go or be going that you need to be going that fast?
Yeah.
In our heads, we're going to the grocery store, so it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
That person could have just gotten a phone call that someone's in the emergency room and that's
Right.
where they're going.
Yeah, or they have
could
to
also
shit
just
or
be
something.
being an asshole and just
Right.
trying to drive down the road really fast. But it's weird to think that there's so many other people's lives and it's everything that we get hit with, they're getting hit with. So
Yes.
it's like, and it's never the same.
Right.
Nothing is ever the same for anybody.
I have that same feeling when looking at other people in their car. If I like stop at a stoplight and I look over, a complete stranger, like what is their life like?
People watching is one of my favorite things to do, and my job makes it the greatest to be able
Oh
to
yeah,
do
I skipped that part. I usually like to start with who are you and what do you do?
We could back up a little
Yeah,
bit.
who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name is Brittany, and I am a bartender at a local gentleman's club.
Oh,
I'm going to leave the name out of it just in case.
Okay, that's cool.
Or try to at least.
Yeah,
it
no
might
doubt.
slip out, so please ignore it if you hear it.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, so like I said, like people watching there as a bartender, it's like this, it's its own little universe. You know, you walk into this building and all of a sudden there's no windows, there's no real doors. It's just this open atmosphere where, you know, the bar is like the little nucleus and everyone's hovered around the bar grabbing their drinks and then you just watch them disperse and some go over here and they dance, some sit in VIP, some go straight to a girl, you know, it's just this, and everything is just moving around you at hyper speed.
Yeah.
And
It's
the
like a
music is loud and the
microcosm
music
of
is
like
going.
existence. You get to see it in this little portal with no windows. It's like you get to see it all.
And like people watching from a customer standpoint is completely different because I've also sat, you know, with you and Mike and everything like that, either after work or just hanging out. And sitting from a customer standpoint, it's completely different than a bartender's standpoint because
Yeah.
a customer standpoint, you can still see everything, but you're not really listening or paying attention. Part of my job as a bartender, I kind of always still have to listen.
Yeah.
So I hear shit all the time that I don't want to hear or I didn't mean to hear, and people definitely did not mean for me to hear.
Right. It's an interesting thought about perception, right? That if you change the vantage point of where you're standing in a situation, the entire situation changes, you know? And I think it's an important thing to think about because sometimes we're like, how did this person not see what I saw? Like they were there. It was the same thing that happened. But as soon as you change the vantage point, it's like a totally different thing. And that's what you're talking about. From being a
Yeah.
bartender to being a customer, you're like experiencing something different.
And I'm sure the managers experience something completely different from both of those standpoints, and the DJ experiences something different.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's why it's so important to try to remember that you're only looking at the world through your vantage point and that other people see things differently, and that's not wrong, you know? And actually it's exciting sometimes and like eye-opening, pun intended, to see it from somebody else's point of view. I feel like the world is missing that a lot right now.
that's what I was just about to say. I feel like people have a hard time being open-minded to things that they don't like or they're uncomfortable with, going back to, you know, protecting your rights and stuff like that about things that you don't like. People have a much easier time telling you things that they like. When you ask somebody, what don't you like? They're like, I don't know, because it's very situational, you know? And I feel like that's why I have a hard time picking sides, you know, like I wouldn't call myself a conservative or a Republican or a Democrat or anything like that because I feel like I'm open-minded enough to see everything from everyone's point of view.
Yeah.
Certain aspects, definitely not. You know what I mean? I don't feel like the government needs to have control over my uterus.
Yes, agreed.
What I choose to do with my body is no concern of the government, especially a male.
Well, what about my opinion? I'm a straight white male. I can't tell you what to do with your uterus. That's just not
Unfortunately,
fair.
you can't. I'm sorry, unless
Well,
you're paying my bills.
And
Or-
even then, there's just like a line that shouldn't be crossed.
Absolutely, and I didn't mean that as if like money shouldn't be able to switch the way that you feel about
Right,
things
but if you're
either.
positively influencing my life and we're taking things on as a team, then the conversation changes a little bit. So I understand completely what you're saying, and I don't know why it's like they pick and choose with the whole my body my choice thing, right? So we agree with my body my choice, except when it comes to vaccines.
Right.
The vaccines, it's like you're endangering other people.
You need this.
It's like, how am I initially everybody said, well, if you take the vaccine, it prevents you from spreading it. But we all know that's not the case anymore. So what?
Well, they told us masks were going to prevent it from spreading.
I had this conversation last night with this gentleman who's running for office, and he was talking about masks and if people would have just worn masks. I said, well, I think we know now that masks don't stop the spread of COVID. He's like, well, it stops the droplets from spreading. And I don't want to argue with him. I wanted to hear his standpoint and other people to
Absolutely.
hear his standpoint. But, to clarify, from what my understanding is that it's not, yes, it can be spread through droplets, but it's also spread just through the air, right? And the virus molecule that's in the air is way smaller than anything a mask could stop.
Right.
Like I joke about like when they were creating this bioweapon in China, like, do you think they maybe thought about the Lilly Pulitzer fabric you were going to try to cover your face with? Like maybe it would be able to get through that, But people, what it is, it's like, one, it's a signaling to the tribe that I am willing to comply, right? I'll wear my mask because I'll follow the rules, right? And then it's like, well, I'm doing it, so you should have to do it too,
Right.
And same thing with the vaccine. Like, well, I got mine, why don't you do it, you coward? You scared?
Well,
Well,
it's either that or it's the opposite, or not the opposite, but it's the other standpoint of, okay, well, you don't care about people.
right.
So you don't care about the people that you live with, or you don't care about your family because you're not vaccinated. You don't care about the people you work with or the people you go to school with.
Right.
And that's not the case at all.
Well,
I
that's
just care about my body a little bit more than yours. And I
correct.
don't want to put bacterias that don't need to be there in there.
Right. There's
If
just
it's
not enough
naturally gonna
safety
happen, it's not.
data to show that it is safe and effective for people of our age. And actually, there is some data that shows that it's not very safe for women and young men from, what is it called? Mitochondria? No. Mitocardia. Tachycardia.
The heart.
Yeah, there's heart inflammation that, excuse me, young men get when they get this vaccine. They also get it from COVID. It's the spike protein that causes this inflammation of the heart. But there's a difference between catching COVID naturally out in the world and somebody forcing me to put a vaccine in my body that's going to give me that. Not only that, but there's all sorts of data that shows there's these lipid nanoparticles in the vaccine, which like carries the vaccine, right? The initial thing is that the vaccine is supposed to stay in your arm where you get the shot, but they don't aspirate a lot of times, where they don't like pull out and make sure that they are not in a vein of some sort. So the vaccine ends up going through your whole body, which was never the intention. And what this data has shown is that these lipid nanoparticles replicate in the ovaries of women. Nowhere else, just the ovaries. Now, if you were to put on your tinfoil hat and say, why would a vaccine replicate in the ovaries?
They're trying to make us sterile.
Right. Or what if they're not trying to make you sterile,
Well,
but
future
make your
generations.
children sterile? So, because we would never know.
Right.
It would be 50 years from now.
Before that's traced back, and
Exactly.
at that point, we're not going to have any idea. Our kids, and even maybe our kids' kids, will still have no idea what's going on.
Exactly. And this sounds crazy.
If there are kids' kids at that point.
Right, right. And because there's ties between the people who want us to take this vaccine and the people who think there are too many people on the planet and that we need to lower those numbers one way or another.
But those are also the same people who are against abortion.
Yeah. Yeah. It's strange. It's like this
So
picking and choosing thing.
You want me to have this baby, so are you going to pay for it? Are you going to pay for my medical bills? Are you going to pay for my rent and my now higher cost of living?
Right.
Or can you just let me pay a minuscule amount compared to what having a baby cost you?
Yeah. Well, not only that,
if
but
I'm not ready or if the circumstances in my life are not
think about the horrible
ideal.
circumstances that could cause a pregnancy
Mhm.
that also are not considered, right? There are horrendous things that happen to young women in this world, and to then have to be stuck with a baby because of it is, crazy. And not only that, but for a young woman to be making this decision about what the future of her life and her child's life is going to look like, it shouldn't be anybody else's decision. Now I have my feelings about late term abortion, right?
Absolutely.
I think that it's like at some point it's like, all right, you have a baby and there is a responsibility factor that comes in with finding out at a certain point. But they said like after 6 weeks it's illegal to get an abortion. Most girls don't know that they're pregnant for 6 weeks.
Especially in the high age group of girls that are having abortions. They're usually active females in high school who might skip a period every once in a while. So them skipping a period isn't abnormal to them.
That's right.
So whereas somebody my age who's more in tune with her body and knows exactly like when about she's supposed to get her menstrual cycle and then doesn't, then you can be concerned.
Right.
Okay, I'm either high stressed, this, or I'm pregnant.
Right.
Kids don't know that.
Right.
They're like, I played 16 hours of soccer yesterday. I did this. I skipped a period. Whatever.
Right.
Next month. Whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And
Now
then
what?
now you have to bring a child into the world. And not only that, but there's weird stuff happening with vaccinated people and people who have had COVID. It's really impacting your menstrual cycle, which is throwing everybody for a loop. They're saying that women who were in menopause are now having their cycle again after getting the vaccine. Have you heard that?
I haven't heard anything about it affecting their menstrual cycles
Oh,
or
it's
anything
all over
like
the
that.
place.
But
Let me use DuckDuckGo here. See if I
I
can
try
find the
also
article.
not to read a lot of the news.
No, it's
because
smart.
It's just
good for your
very
mental health.
depressing.
I'm the opposite. I like to terrify myself with information that I find on the internet. This is why my wife told me to do a podcast.
I just terrify myself with things on the internet about other things, not real life news.
Right. Did you see that poor kid fall off that ride?
Yeah.
Oh. Did you watch the video?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Did you hear the audio in the video?
Muffled.
At the beginning.
It was at another kava bar, so there was music and people, and I didn't want to ask the kid to replay it because I
Right.
just couldn't.
Oh. At the beginning, there's people shouting, "Seatbelt, seatbelt. Did you get the seatbelt over there on the left? Did you get the seatbelt?" And then the thing goes up. And then it comes down, and it's like the stopping action of the ride coming down that kind of slings him out of the seat. This poor gentleman. And then a girl comes up afterwards and says to the two guys who were in charge of checking the belts, like, why did he fall out? Did you check him? Did you check him? And they're like, yeah. Oh my God. Here's another thing though about risk management, right? We let people go on those kind of rides. We let people ride motorcycles and jump out of planes and do all sorts of things that are dangerous, right? But with COVID, it's like a COVID zero policy.
And I feel like that's with anything else that's ever gone on that has been, how do I say, like not a pandemic, but anything big like that.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it's always just like, oh, okay, cool, mad cow disease is out there. Be
Right.
careful.
Right. Oh yeah. Up to this point, we've never had this type of response.
No.
Right. And it's always been like, oh, it stays in China or whatever. I mean, like,
They'll let us know about it, but it's never like a huge thing.
yeah.
And like you said, they let us do all this other stuff. but-
Exactly. And we are allowed to manage risk in our life on a regular basis. And again, the gentleman who was on last night, who is a very nice guy. He's 37 years old. He's running for Senate. We need young people to shake things up a bit. But he was saying when we were talking about masks for kids, because he's a school teacher too, he's like, one of the conversations we were having is that, now that we know that 1% of the children who get COVID are going to die. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Far less than that. That's not the number. 1% of kids who get COVID don't die. It is far, far less than that. And his response was, well, I this is from 6 months ago and I don't have the reference in front of me. But this is the problem, is people are using numbers that are not real to make these decisions. You know, and that's the whole time. Like, they put these death tickers on TV. Could you imagine if we had a death ticker for car accidents?
Right.
Nobody would drive.
Heart attacks.
Oh, heart attacks, diabetes. Apparently, in this country, like 30% of the country is diabetic, and 20%, or no, 40% is diabetic, and 20% is pre-diabetic. So 60% of our country is, has diabetes or is going to have diabetes, which is mostly preventable based on their diet.
Right.
Right? Not only that, but was like one of the number one comorbidities with COVID. Right? But nobody says anything about that.
No, and they just jack the prices on food higher to make it harder to access, to where families and people have no choice but to eat that lower quality of food that in return makes them obese and gives them all of these health issues that can be purely prevented if we could just go into our backyard and pick a nice tomato and pick a head of lettuce from our neighbor's house and then go to Susie's down the street and get some corn and then have a grill.
Yeah, it's very true that if you try to eat healthy, it is very expensive.
Super expensive.
Not only that, but again, last night I was talking to this gentleman, Joshua Wheel, W-E-I-L, Joshua Wheel, and he was talking about food deserts. There are places in our country, and they're usually like lower income. If you're a little warm, I can turn that on you and turn it up. It does get warm up here. I apologize. Where the only place to get food is the Family Dollar. Right? There's not even Publix, and there's not even like grocery stores in these neighborhoods, like in the hood or whatever.
And if you really look,
That's okay.
If you really look closely at the expiration dates on those food at the Family Dollar, it's not far off from either being expired or it's already expired.
Is that why they have it in the first place? Oh yeah, it's like when you go to Ross, shop dress for less. It's like the logo's like slightly off to the side.
Right. And
But
even so, you can't feed even you and somebody else a healthy diet from there at all. It's a bunch of things that sit on the shelf, so it's either canned goods that have been preserved for however long, and it's full of sodium and all that other stuff. And I don't know how long the bacon's been in that freezer, but I wouldn't eat it.
Yeah. Well, you've heard about where like the healthiest place to eat is the outside of the grocery store, right? Along the outside, because that's where all like the refrigerated, fresh stuff is, and the inside is all the boxed, packaged, canned goods. Well, if you're shopping at a Family Dollar or something like that, all that's there is the inside of the grocery store. You can't get the other stuff.
You're getting the modified sugars and all that instant potatoes, and
those are good though.
they are kind of good. I do use them.
I'm
not gonna
like
lie.
potatoes in a box.
Yep.
I have surprised myself many a times in my 20s with how delicious potatoes from a box can be.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I have made plenty of bomb-ass meals from Family Dollar when I've been pinching pennies. I can turn your ramen into some pretty fucking good pad thai.
Okay. Well, the thing is that when it's a necessity, right? And when it's like, it's nice to be able to have those options, but it's also, you want to have options for healthy things too. There is this one thing that you can get. It's like a meal in a box, and it's like, you can get biscuits, chicken and biscuits or something. And it's like a box. It comes with a can of like soup in it and like some flour, and you mix it all up. You put it in a pan and bake it. And have you not seen this?
I don't think so.
Oh, man, I lived on those in my 20s, too. Look at this. I'm trying to look up things about menstrual cycles and the spike protein, and everything that I look up, it says cannot open. But it's funny because there's some things on here that are saying unvaccinated women are having disturbances in their menstrual cycles. Unvaccinated women are having disturbances in their menstrual cycles. Well, so are vaccinated women.
Right.
The spike protein's
That's
causing
not
it.
uncommon.
It's a fucking wild world that we live in.
If you have too much sex, it fucks with your menstrual cycle.
I have that problem all the time.
Do you?
Yeah.
The menstrual cycle or the too much sex part?
Neither. So I came across this video earlier that I don't want to, not to make it weird, but it made me think of you. So I'm going to play it real quick.
Oh, jeez.
Let me see. Is it going to play? There we go.
This working for a living is some hoe shit. I'm about one early morning and one bad day away from selling fucking pictures of my feet on the goddamn internet. Done with this shit.
That's pretty good,
Get
right?
it now.
You get it now? It
Yeah,
wasn't
I
the
was like, why
scraping
did
of
it
the
make you
ceiling.
think of me?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Let's do
segue.
it.
I have a friend of mine who I've told you about.
Yes.
Her name is Miss Mothership. I met her when she was a young girl in Charlotte, North Carolina. She was like a go-go dancer, and she would work with other go-go dancers, and she would book them at different places. And I thought she was just like really full of life, really creative, and I helped her. I didn't really help her. I just, she needed some graphics done, and so I think her name was Cupcake and her friend's name was Chaos. So we came up with the chaotic cupcakes, and then we made logos and flyers and branding and everything for them. And then I told her, like, you're going to be a superstar. Just keep grinding, right? And now she owns multiple online businesses.
I
She
think
sells
it's like 3 or 4.
yeah, she sells so it's Alien Outfitters.
Ravewear.
It's Ravewear. Oh, that's Ravewear, Alien Outfitters. And then there's ones like Blades for Bitches.
Blades for Babes, I believe.
Yes. And she's killing it.
Yeah.
But she also is proud representer of sex work, online sex work. She does things like selling bath water and other unmentionables.
Yes.
And has done very well for herself.
Very profitable for herself.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, I thought you would need to know that information. We were talking about something one day.
I think we started talking about OnlyFans and how it became very popular during quarantine, that everyone just kind of jumped on this bandwagon to be like, okay, I look good naked. Let me have people pay for it.
Right.
Or some people that we knew that did it and stuff like that.
Oh, right.
And, just how it's been, in all the documentaries too of this online sex work that's now like acceptable. Whereas, before, that kind of online sex work, I mean, just taking
Was like taboo.
risque photos was in a magazine and you hid it under your bed as a kid.
Right. So actually the gentleman who was here last night, one of the things we didn't talk about this, but it's on his platform, is he thinks that sex work should be made legal and there should be spaces where people can advertise safely. I totally forgot to talk to him about this last night. While I'm doing this, I'm looking up Miss Mothership here. Miss Mother. I want to shout out.
Starting to look really good.
That looks sick, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to our friend Mike. He is making a mural on the wall here that the original design was by one of our bartenders and good friends here, Reber Deep. He made this image of me with with aliens and UFOs and hypodermic needles for vaccines and surveillance cameras and chemtrails all coming out of my head. And then Mike turned it into a mural here that says live from Hakuna. We might get a second camera up over here to show.
I was
this
wondering when
angle.
they started doing it if you were going to flip the camera so that was behind you as a backdrop, but then I thought it might be too distracting, so I was wondering what you guys were going to do.
So it's a couple things. One, we'll have you sign the wall here before you leave. So we decided that we are going to have people sign the wall, the ceiling here, after they were being guests. So to not just have random signatures on the wall, we decided this would be a good place for a mural to kind of tie it all in together.
I like
so
that.
now what we might do also is add a camera out here facing this way, and then I can switch between both sides. So, if you're like me, my good side's on my right. I'm just kidding. I don't have a good side. But at least we can see both sides and whatnot. All right, let me see. I want to give Anna D the Miss Mothership the credit she deserves for all of these businesses.
We'll definitely tag her in this.
So
too.
you have dove into some of this.
I did. I guess working at a gentleman's club, I see these guys, and I'm not going to say that they're desperate. I'm not going to knock what they like. but I see how they're just willing to give away their money in certain instances. You know, there's a girl I work with, she already sells her socks. So when she was telling me that, I was like, that's so easy. I wear these for 12 hours a day. They're kind of gross at the end of it. People with feet fetishes, I guess it's the grosser the better, to each their own. But like, why can't I make $20 from it? You know? So like, the more I thought about it and the more I thought if I wanted to talk about it, you know, would I be embarrassed to talk about it, or would it be something that I can sit here and say that I'm proud of venturing into? I can't really give you a definitive answer yet. I'm definitely not embarrassed about it. I tell quite a few people that I've started dabbling in this area of work for, you know, a second job per se.
Yep.
I haven't really gotten a great response yet, but it takes time. You know, I've only been kind of doing it for a month. I've posted a couple things here and there. I've messaged a few potential clients here and there. It's all kind of led me to dead ends so far, but you know, I did buy the book. It's called Slutrepreneur.
Like entrepreneur, but with the word slut at the beginning. Slutrepreneur. This is Miss
Another
Mothership's
business
book.
of hers.
Yeah, she's a badass, dude.
Yeah. So
And she encourages, is empowering, and it's your body. It is what's the held in high regard from men. And what better way to, you know, they say that women selling sex or their bodies is the first profession there ever was. And if this goes back to the my body, my choice thing, right? And what better way to do that than through the protection of the internet?
And my belief is if there are women or even men that are willing to do this kind of work to satisfy the needs or wants of other people out there, why not let them have access to it, as opposed to, you know, maybe somebody not getting that need fulfilled and then it manifest in something else.
Yeah.
Which turns down the dark road of, you know, stalking people and breaking into people's homes and stealing your underwear out of your drawer. I would much rather sell it to you than have you
You want this, bud?
You know what I mean?
20
Because
bucks.
that's violating.
Right.
I don't want you to break in my home and grab these things. I would rather you just say, hey, like, would you wear those for 10 hours and I'll pay you $50? Like,
Right.
all right, cool. I'll
Right.
go take that $50, buy 4 more pairs of underwear and do it again.
Right. And there's like a thing of, it's like what you're saying is like exercising the demons, so to speak. It's like the people are going to have these taboo thoughts and feelings, and rather than having them suppress it and it come out in rage or in something illegal or dangerous, it's like, well, why not be able to have a win-win situation here? You can get the unmentionables and I can make some money.
Exactly. And I feel like if no one's getting hurt in the process, or if it doesn't turn into a toxic thing, obviously there are situations where women and, you know, they arrange this relationship where you give me money for clothing items or whatever it is, bath water, earwax, boogers, whatever.
Wait,
toenails.
is that a thing?
Yeah, it's all a thing.
Whoa.
Hair, boogers, earwax,
Whoa.
armpit hair. I mean, you name it, you can sell it pretty much. There's a niche for it, you know? Now I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. Well, on side note, so Miss Mothership on Instagram, Alien Outfitters on Instagram, Horny Stoner Pipes on Instagram, Blades for Babes, Slutrepreneur. These are all Miss Mothership's brands. She's done a stellar job. She's taken her own sexuality into her hands and turned it into a for-profit business. And I think it's empowering. I think as long as you're being safe, responsible.
And she's very, you know your worth, you know? Like, there are women who do this kind of work and they're like, yeah, I'll take $5 for it. Like,
Right.
don't put yourself at that standard, because women are worth more than that. We are held, I don't want to say on a pedestal or anything, but you know, we are the beautiful, we are meant for fertility, and you know, like, those things are lusted after.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like as long as you know your worth and you're comfortable with doing it, I don't see a problem with it. And I think it's a very lucrative business for people out there.
Yeah, I agree completely. It goes same back always to my body, my choice. And I think it's empowering. And I think, women are like, you guys make all the people.
Yeah.
Like, without you, like, we wouldn't fucking exist. And it's traumatizing on your body. It's very difficult. So it's like, if we're going to give y'all people, like, I'm going to capitalize a little bit on me being, sought after,
Exactly.
I
And
think-
there's a there's a fetish for that too.
Right. For what?
Like pregnant women.
Oh, right. There is. Oh, okay. This is going to be weird, but I said it the other day too, so I can say it. So I made a new TikTok for the podcast,
Ooh.
right? So all it asked me was how old I am, right? It didn't ask, I didn't like anything or follow anything. The same day that I made the podcast, TikTok, which is live from Hakuna on TikTok, I started scrolling. You know what videos I was being fed? Being fed, pun intended, breastfeeding.
What?
Hundreds of videos of women breastfeeding their children. Attractive women with their nipples out, breastfeeding. And this is like...
I mean, that is a big movement that's going around.
Right.
Is women want to be able to feel like we don't have to go hide to feed our children,
Which I agree with. But why is
And
it on my TikTok?
I have no idea. I'm not really sure why. I get why women are posting it on TikTok. It's obviously for awareness, but I'm not really sure why it would pop on yours.
You know why? Because men are watching it, and I fit a category of man between this age, and we don't know anything about you personally yet, but we do know that men your age like to watch breastfeeding videos, so I'm going to send you that. It was very strange.
That's
Then, the
weird.
next day, Danielle and I, in the morning, had a little bit of a tiff. And we got into it a little bit about personal marital stuff, right? So we come to work and we're giving each other our space, right? And I am scrolling on TikTok. And now, when I'm being fed on TikTok, are videos that are specific to the argument that we had. Specific about the specific topic that we were talking about. Now, it didn't pick up on keywords. It analyzed our entire conversation. And then immediately, within 10 minutes, I was being fed these marital counseling type of videos on TikTok. No more breastfeeding, by the way. Breastfeeding out, marital in within minutes. Now, here's the thing is that there's, we all know that it tracks our behavior, right? And we all feel like when we talk about something, it just shows up. But if you ask the people who designed all this stuff, even the people who have quit their jobs because they didn't like the ethics of the company from
can't
Google
talk
or whatever,
about it.
well, they say, no, we don't use the microphone. Still, they say we don't use the microphone.
Lies.
I saw it firsthand yesterday, 3 days ago.
My phone's down there because I didn't know where this was going to go. I
Right.
just didn't.
You
wasn't
didn't want to
sure.
start getting advertisements for earwax.
Sales of earwax.
Mine is
I
right
already
now.
do,
Mine literally
actually.
right now is showing me earwax for sale.
Now I get a lot of boudoir now advertisements, a lot of underwear, lingerie, sex toys.
It's fucking weird. So I said at the end of the night, we're in bed. I'm like, babe, I got to tell you something.
Oh, and stripper talk. Can't forget stripper
Is
talk.
that what's stripper talk?
It's literally strippers and waitresses of strip clubs that are like, follow me while I go to work, and showing how much money they make and what they do on a daily basis and what it's like to be a stripper.
And that's on your
And
TikTok?
pole dancing, yeah.
Wow.
Talked about taking a pole dancing class right back here once, and now I have pole dancing videos for days.
Yeah. So they're definitely listening.
Absolutely.
I've heard that TikTok's the most invasive when it comes to your monitoring your behavior, but to see it firsthand with like a brand new TikTok page that I haven't liked anything, and then for it to immediately feed me specific stuff that was like the only way it could have given me what it gave me is if it analyzed the conversation.
Right.
Like groups of words, not just keywords or whatever. Like, it was very strange. Very strange.
That's the stuff that really scares me. You know what I mean? Like, I get everything that's going on in Ukraine and everything like that, and this whole possible World War III and everything like that's terrifying too. But honestly, technology and things that we don't, we do, but we don't create. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't make a computer.
Right.
Somebody else made a computer.
Right.
That person is smarter than me. And it's just evolved like that for so many years. And like we see it on a daily basis, like you said, through talking about something and all of a sudden we have ads for it now. And just all this stuff here and there that like they're brainwashing us.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the real scary thing is that is not people sitting in at TikTok saying, "Oh, Blake will like this." It's a artificial intelligence algorithm that is predicting human behavior, and that can get away from us very quickly.
Have you ever seen the Disney Channel original movie Smart House?
No.
The woman who plays in Sons of Anarchy, the voice for the girl in Futurama.
Oh yeah, she's also Al Bundy's wife, married with children. This might be
Drawing
before
a
your
blank
time.
on her name.
Okay, yeah. I'll look it up.
She, here we go again. I smoked too much weed.
Al Bundy's wife, real name is Katie Sagal.
Yep.
So you're watching Smart Home on
Yes.
Disney.
Smart House.
Smart House.
So she is like an Alexa, pretty much. So
Okay.
this family, and one of the little girls enters this contest for her family to win a new smart home. It's all decked out. It's, before Alexa and everything was really existed.
Yep.
So everything is, computerized in this home.
Yeah,
she
very
can
futuristic.
project, a bowling alley on the wall and turn this into that and tell you what you need in your fridge and all this stuff. But it shows how technology got, she reads the behaviors of the kids and the dad so much that she really feels like she's a person. And then all of a sudden, like, she obviously materializes in the movie to be a person, and it's Katie Sagal. But it's weird, and she takes like a dark turn, and it's weird because that's how I see technology. Like, I see all these things that are animated or animatronic, not animated, but and like your Alexa and the Echo Dots and all of that stuff that's constantly
Artificial
listening
intelligence.
and talking back to you and learning your behaviors and how you talk and type and text and everything. Like,
Yeah.
that's like that. I fear that way more than outer space, than World War III. Like,
No, I agree with you completely, dude. It's like, and the weird thing is when you're like talking about like a Disney movie that talked about this before Alexa existed. And then there was also a movie, I think it was called Her, and it was with Joaquin Phoenix, and he fell in love with a robot voice. And then there was like Ex Machina, where this guy falls in love with this robot.
Bicentennial Man.
Oh, Bicentennial Man. And then there's another movie called AI with Haley Joel Osment,
Yeah.
right? That, they say that we have technology 50 years in advance of what the population knows,
Right.
right? And if the Hollywood were to have information on that, it's like they like set us up for it. They know it's coming.
I believe that the media gives us hints on what's going on or what is about to happen often. I just feel like everyone, including myself, because I feel like I miss it, but then I think about it and it's like hindsight's 20/20 kind of thing. But I definitely believe that the universe and those idiosyncrasies try and tell us things constantly, but everyone is just too busy and too caught up in their too chaotic life to pay attention.
Yeah. Well, when again talking to Mr. Wheel yesterday, he was talking about how much money it takes to run for office, right? It's $60 million to run for Senate, right? And all that money goes to television ads on news channels. Okay, so here is this fucking circle of money that just like, and then the news tells us about the politicians in favorable or unfavorable ways. So these corporations donate to the politicians give that money to the media outlets. The media outlets then shape what we think about the politicians and help make policy that are going to help the businesses. That it's like this fucking cycle of money that corporations, politicians, and the media are like in cahoots to just like they're running the fucking simulation, you know? And maybe there's like a fucking, maybe they're working with aliens too. What do you think about aliens?
I'd like to talk about mermaids.
Oh, I never talk about mermaids.
I figured.
Yeah. So mermaids are mythological creatures,
Correct.
right? Where it's humanity took a split at one point, and some creatures went to the water.
Yes.
And it's called a siren, right? And there would be these sailors that would talk about these siren songs and of these women, beautiful women who were half fish, half woman, that were also, or are all of them monsters, or some of them are muses?
So I believe that, so a siren to me and to my understanding in mythology was essentially a sea creature that was half, mostly women. You know, then there were talks about mermans and sirens being men too and stuff like that. But focusing on mermaids and sirens, I believe that out of the water, they were this beautiful woman that as the sailors became closer, they could see a fin, and then they would follow her into the ocean because of this beautiful song that she sang, that they wouldn't be able to get out of their head, so that they would dive into the ocean and they would just keep swimming, and obviously they would die, which is where they say, you know, like lure men to their deaths from this song. But my understanding is in the water, they're a monster. You know, they're vicious. They're fighting for their tribe kind of thing, their family, school, tribe. I watched a show called Siren, and I'm pretty sure they called it a tribe, so we're going to go with tribe.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so in the water, they're like a dark creature, but when they would come out of the water to lure the men in, they would become this beautiful mermaid.
So when I talk about aliens and then you go to mermaids, this is an interesting thing that it made me think of. So,
well, because I feel like they're one and the same.
yes. So
I don't understand how you can tell me that you believe in a creature in the galaxy, but you don't know the depths of the ocean, and you can tell me that there's not something down there that might look like us.
They say that we know more about outer space than we do about our oceans.
Absolutely.
And there's been all of these sightings recently of UFO type craft over military ships in the ocean. And Commander David Fravor tells his account of chasing one of these tic-tac shaped craft that moved from like 80,000 feet to 1 foot above the sea level in like 1 second. And when it was above the ocean, there was like something under the water that he described as it was like communicating with this thing under the water. So my crazy head started thinking, well, maybe aliens don't visit us. Maybe this was their planet first. Maybe they live in the ocean, you know, and maybe mermaids or sirens are part of whatever's happening in the ocean that we don't know about. And when we started seeing them is when we started testing nuclear weapons. And they're like, whoa, these fucking crazy monkeys are throwing fucking, you know, bombs at each other. Let's fucking see what we can do to intervene, because they're going to destroy our planet.
Right.
You know? And maybe that's what these sea creatures that people have talked about for centuries are aliens in the water.
Well, that, and like if you think like alligators and sharks are dinosaurs.
Yes.
Birds are dinosaurs.
Yes.
What is our version of a dinosaur? A caveman?
Ooh.
Or, I mean, the whole, you know, through erosion and stuff like that, the Earth always didn't look like this.
No, there was that. I think it was called Pangea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I definitely think like Atlantis, you know, like that kids movie where they journey to Atlantis under the water, and there's like this whole like living, breathing like ecosystem.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that like
There
there's
are-
mermaids down
There
there.
are real scientists and ecologists or people who study the history of the earth and the land and whatnot who do agree and believe that the lost city of Atlantis is a thing, you know? I think it's so fun to think about stuff like that.
I say this jokingly sometimes to people, but I also like there's something in my body that when I think about it, like I believe in reincarnation in some effect, or maybe my soul was somewhere else prior. I mean, I think I was a mermaid. Like I'm very attracted to the water, the salt water in general. When I'm in the water, I just feel like weightless, like I'm supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So I feel like somewhere down the line, like there has to be
Some sort of
some sort of
connection.
mermaid who then decided like maybe she did sell her soul to Ursula and grow legs, and then she married the prince and they had babies, and then from then on that's where
you
humans came from.
Oh, yeah. I can dig it. You know, reincarnation is a very interesting thing that, you know, if you're talking about heaven and hell and Christianity, it's like it's way of, you know, they don't believe in that, but you know, scientifically you can't destroy energy. It can only be replaced or moved, right? And it's like my brother passed away and I feel him with me all the time. Not only that, but Danielle has this thing where she has always been terrified of war. And when she thinks of war, not only is it scary because of like the current threat, but she gets these flashes of images.
She's told me this before,
Yes.
actually, recently, I feel
Yes,
like.
because what was happening in Ukraine, she was seeing
Yes.
videos and she's like, these are my visions. Like she's seen it before. Literally today, we went to Inklink to grab I needed some plugs for my ears, and it's right there by the airport. And there's this sound that's like, and it's an airplane landing very close by. And she immediately had this look of terror and looked at me and was like, she thought it's almost like she gets flashbacks from another life.
Like PTSD from another life.
From another life and she's sure of it. She's like, I'm sure I lived through some sort of war. My brother did this thing called past life regression, where you go in with like a therapist/hypnotist and they walk you through. You actually walk them through. They just get you talking. And you like travel and talk about past lives, you know?
I just saw this girl on TikTok. I was just scrolling, didn't search anything in particular, and I happened to come across this girl who is going to ketamine therapy. And she describes her very first ketamine treatment in 3 parts. And I'll have to look at her name later on and so you can see it. And then if you want to play it later on for somebody else, you
Cool.
can down the line. But she explains this experience of laying in this big reclining chair in this controlled environment. And she was given ketamine to, you know, help heal some past traumas. And she closes her eyes when it starts to hit her. And her first thing that she says is, "Show me my biggest fear." And it literally starts showing her as a child, like a video. So not necessarily like past life, but I definitely think that our brain is capable of storing memories. Obviously, they come from the media and things that we see around. And it's like, you know, you always tell someone a story like, "Oh, I heard somewhere, blah, 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 blah. I can't remember." You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
somewhere you heard something and it planted that seed and made this memory. But I believe that there are many ways that you can kind of come in contact with you from a past life.
Yeah. Have you heard stories about like young children who like within their first few years
Yes.
of life are talking about like people from what could only be a past life, you know, and they say it's like imaginary friends.
Or they're like, I'm dead.
Mm,
And you're like, what? They're like, I died.
right.
And then I came back to life. And you're like,
When? We're eating dinner. Right. There's a video
I was a
saw.
veterinarian. And you're like, and then they just start telling you like these. Then you're like, no, this is a movie.
Right. Right. Where are you getting that from? I saw this meme or something that was like this dude smoking a blunt, and he's like, what if when you die, the light that you're going to is coming out of another vagina? And when you come out crying, it's because you knew you just died. You know? And it's like,
I've seen things like that.
yeah, it's like, holy shit, maybe that does happen.
And I always watch them when I'm stoned. So I'm always like, yes.
Yeah, that's
I
real.
believe everything you're saying.
That's
and I
real.
feel the exact same way.
Yeah,
They're high thoughts and I love them.
Yeah. I used to have fun high thoughts. Now I just have like imminent death and danger high thoughts, so I can't do it anymore, you know? But all of these types of things have made me much less afraid of death. I used to be very terrified of death. And obviously I'm still scared of a horrendous death or a painful death or a terrifying death. But the fact about like death itself and like this existence coming to an end, I have hope that there has to be something on the other side that might be far more beautiful than where we are now. At least that gives me like peace of mind when I have those types of thoughts, you know? Like it can't be just like over, you know?
For me, sorry, that Lalo makes me burp.
That's okay.
For me, like you said, I'm not afraid of death per se. I'm afraid of how I'm going to die.
Right.
I don't want to die in a fire and I don't want to drown. I don't want to feel it. Ideally, I want to go like someone should,
Yeah.
you know, where you close your eyes to go to sleep and then you just don't wake up.
Right.
That's ideal.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen? I don't know. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid of death because I feel like my soul already died 3 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I was already reborn into a different person. So death doesn't scare me because I could honestly, this physical, or not physical, but this mental Brittany could die 2 years from now and be a different person.
Well said.
So death doesn't scare me. Going back to living the life I lived before was hell. So it was like I was dead anyway.
Have you gone
You
through
know?
a transformation?
Yeah, I feel like in the past, what is it now? July will be 3 years that, you know, like I noticed the biggest changes in myself and that's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
You know, I used to kind of seek approval from everybody else and be like, oh, look, do you think I'm doing the right thing now? Like, I don't care anymore. I know I'm doing the right thing now and that's enough.
Yeah. Well said. I mean, because a lot of times we do look to others to get that confirmation that we're doing the right thing, or we listen to what other people's opinions are about us and we allow it to shape our own self-worth. And, you know, you can't do that. You only get one ride. Well, maybe we get 1,000 rides, but this is the ride we're on right now, you know, and you got to enjoy yourself and you got to fall on your face, right? And things are going to you're going to fuck shit up.
Yep.
No matter how much your family or, you know, your parents tell you like, this is what you should be doing. You know, it's like, yeah, maybe, but I'm going to figure this out myself, you know? And my wife and I, in our family, my mom too, we have this thing called next right thing. And as long as we focus on just doing the next right thing, then we can lay our heads down at night knowing all is well because we did what we could.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's all you can do. You know, you can't try to live to the expectations of people who aren't in your shoes.
Right.
Right? Or in your underwear.
If they want to wear it, they can. I don't care what they do with it when I sell it to them.
Should we plug where they can get underwear?
I don't know.
No, we don't have to. No,
Not
you
yet.
don't get our underwear, motherfuckers.
It's out there. If you find it, you find it.
Yeah, there you go. dig deep and hard for it, fuckers. Well, yeah, I'm glad to know that you've come a long way, and I haven't had a chance to know you that long, but the Brittany that I know is an awesome young woman.
Thank you.
And I think you're doing a great job, and everything is just going to get better, and it's all growth, right?
Yeah.
It's always growth. I'm excited to see what your future looks like. But real quick, back to bartending at a strip club. I used to have this terrible thought that when somebody would tell me like, oh, I'm a cocktail waitress at a strip club, and I'm like, yeah, you're a stripper. There is a difference, correct?
Absolutely.
There are people who understand that in that atmosphere, there's money to be made. You can have fun or whatever, and you don't have to strip, right?
And there's days I make more money than the strippers.
Right. Yeah, I was a rapper for 15 years, and me and my buddy used to joke all the time that rappers and strippers, it's like hand in hand, right? Because it's a rock star lifestyle of two different types. So we spent a lot of time in strip clubs. A lot of my female friends were dancers, and you realize that some girls, whether they were going to work at McDonald's or at the strip club, some people just like are self-destructive. Other people use the circumstance they're in to progress. And you would see both of that. You know, I know plenty of girls who were dancers who like fucking bought a $500,000 home, paid for themselves to go through college, take care of their children as single mothers. You know, it's like I commend somebody who's willing to do what other people are like, oh, really? It's like, yeah, motherfucker. Yeah.
And as a bartender, like you start to see who those dancers are. You know what I mean? So like I said before, I'm not here to knock anybody's hustle. Someone is there to provide a service. We create a fantasy for men or women to come in and get this experience of feeling, you know, in the club that I work at, it's prominently older men. So, you know, like we're letting them relive their youth. We're giving them these beautiful women and this music that makes them want to dance and feel young, and it makes them feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
And they're there and they can spend their money because they don't have anybody to spend their money on anymore, and they've already lived a life of luxury, and now they're there to give it to somebody else. So some of these dancers definitely live the party lifestyle, and they, you know, might have a little bit saved up, but a lot of them are sending money back home to families. A lot of them are trying to provide a stable life for themselves and their children.
Yeah. You can't knock somebody's hustle, man. And a lot of times what that is somebody who's not brave enough to be, you know, to live life the way they want to live it, you know, and fuck the haters. You know, I'll always say, fuck the haters and let your haters be your graders. You know, I said this on the podcast the other day. I used to have people comment on my rap videos like, you fucking suck. And it's like, I could just picture them sitting in front of their computer being like, hey, come here. Look how bad this guy sucks.
Right.
And you just gave me 25 more views because you couldn't help but play it over and over.
Because you shared it to 16 other friends who shared it to 16 other friends.
Right. And some of them are saying you suck. And it's like, well, thanks, dude. Sorry, you suck. Sorry, you don't want to pursue something you're passionate about. You know? Well, I commend you for being your truest self,
Thank
dude.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. Fuck the haters. We're always here for you. You're doing a great job. Keep selling that earwax, girlfriend.
Will do.
Yeah, absolutely. If people want to follow you on your journey, you want to share socials?
Sure. My Instagram is @_tiny_mermaid_.
Cool.
Or however Blake spells my name down below. You can look it up under my full name as well.
Lartitegui.
Yeah.
Lartitegui.
Lartitegui.
Brittany, absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for
I
sitting
had
down
so
with
much
me
fun.
today. I'm really glad. I did too.
Me too.
We'll continue this conversation in the future.
Absolutely.
Love you, dude.
Love you.
Thank you guys for being a fly on the wall during this conversation. Go follow Tiny Mermaid. She's a total badass. And always be your truest self. This is the ride you're on, so ride the shit out of it. We'll see you next time live from Hakuna. Thanks, y'all.